So the gang is back. Dakota's back. Gail's back. So how are you doing?
Just wonderful. I've been in the land of Oz myself, Ozarks, and the weather's been beautiful here. No droughts, no floods, and gardening and keeping up with the database and trying to keep up with you and Gail. That's not an easy thing to do, let me tell you. And it's wonderful to be back with you again.
How you doing, Gail?
Doing great. We've had, I think, 4 thunderstorms, and there's been some flooding all around Arizona in the last week, and I hear that we're supposed to have more. So it's been interesting. The thunder has been so loud in the morning, and then sometimes it just comes out of nowhere at nighttime. And
When I get back from the States, when people start to realize where I am, because I'm in an undisclosed location doing my research, but when I do go back to the States, I'll explain where I was, and I'll be able to tell you all the odd things that were happening in the location. But I can't do it right now, because if I said certain things, in terms of weather or in terms of cases, they would be able to zero in where I'm at. So I'm not going to say. So keep the suspense alive.
I love secrets.
Well, that's been a secret. I mean, some people think I'm in China. Some people think that I'm like in someone's basement. Some people think that I'm somewhere in far out desert somewhere. I don't know, but people will know. Even Leo Zagami, you know who Leo is. Yeah, so he's even making bets on where I'm at.
Got a bet going.
Yeah, no, there is.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So okay, so Dakota, bring up. We were talking behind the scenes before we started recording about kind of a misunderstanding or maybe individuals don't realize that there's information about the actual sequencing of SARS-CoV-2, and it's been published for a long time. So maybe you can introduce to the audience what people are saying behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of claims that, even from medical doctors who should know better, that the virus itself has never been isolated from a human being. And they're not even talking about the sequencing. The point is that the actual virus was never isolated, and therefore everything only exists on the computer. And it was, in fact, perhaps even computer generated, and there is no virus. And so I knew that you would be the person to confirm one way or the other. And in our discussion we just had, you did confirm that, yes, there is a virus, and it was isolated from a human.
I would even take it just a step further, so you got, in vivo, in vitro, in silico. So, they're saying it's in silico, all right? Well, how can an in silico non-existent virus show clinical presentations of what we call COVID-19? How do they get around that?
The way they get around it is by saying that all of it's just the flu, and that it's the
PCR but how many people have glass opacity with influenza?
They don't dig into it that way. It's just that it's just written off as being just a regular flu, and that the PCR tests have been faulty, which is true because they've been at 40 cycles.
Okay, so wait, hold on. So I want to break this down before we show the screen. Okay. But if it's the flu, then when you do isolate the flu, you would get a flu sequence, not an in silico hybrid sequence that they're claiming.
Well, no, according to this particular argument, they're not going into it in that kind of depth to say that they're even trying to isolate it and call it the flu. No, none of the doctors or none of the medical establishment calls it the flu. They're calling it the SARS-CoV-2 virus, right? It's that certain people believe that it's all fake, and
Yeah, but
that
here's the problem. This is if you remember, you were listening to the show early on, back in,
January
yeah.
2019, you were the
So I would,
guy.
right. So when I had call-ins, one of the first call-ins that I received was a family in Florida that had a child that had the gliosis, and they were trying to figure out what was going on with his viral-like symptoms.
Uh-huh.
And that child was tested for influenza and it was negative.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually the whole family ended up getting SARS-CoV-2,
Right.
in different presentations of it. But I mean, but my show was the first one that I know of that actually had a caller call in the United States in early February,
Yeah.
where their child was suspected of having SARS-CoV-2. And
Mhm.
because of this weird clinical presentation of this gliosis that was happening. And then
Yeah.
eventually the rest of the family gets it.
Mhm.
Right. It was stated with the father. He said that they tested for influenza and they tested negative.
Right.
So even that doesn't hold water. Now let's share the screen. I'll share my
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show people. I did a video, an in-depth video that's on Brighteon. I don't know what red line war room number it is, but it's something that in the title, it's something like isolating SARS-CoV-2 or proof of isolating SARS-CoV-2 or something like that. So to get to this is all you have to do is just type in, in the search here, just SARS-CoV-2, right?
But make sure that you've clicked onto the nucleotide database.
Well, it doesn't really matter because
Okay.
you can do genome,
Okay.
genome and you just go SARS-CoV-2, right? And then that will take you to the reference genome. You just want to pick the reference genome.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter which one you pick. All right. And so this will bring this up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there was a Nature paper that I did a full video about. I won't do it like I did in that video. I'll just briefly mention it. You just click the PubMed link. And this paper it's free. You can see it in full PDF. Okay. And it was published on February 3rd. Okay. The full article, February 3rd of 2020. Okay. I did my video on January 25th, 2020. So I did my video about the man-made virus, is how I phrased it at that time. Is it a bioweapon? On January 25th. All right.
Yeah.
This was before the publication of this paper. All right. What happened was there was an individual that was hospitalized in China on December 12th, 2019. Okay. This individual started to get worse in Wuhan. All right. On December 26th, 2019, they were starting to show the signs of what we would call COVID-19 disease.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They didn't know what they were dealing with at that time. Eventually, what it was called was the Wuhan virus, but eventually was renamed to this 2019 nCoV, the novel coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember right, the way it's data banked, I don't know, it used to be data banked as Wuhan virus, but they stopped calling it that at the NIH. Okay, so now this paper shows in detail how they pulled the fluid out of the lung and purified it to get the viral product. And then they did a sequence of that purified product. They sequenced this thing. This is the glass opacity that everyone knows about that's going on with SARS-CoV-2 that you don't get with influenza. All right. They broke this thing apart. And they digest it and broke it apart and sequence it 56 million times. All right. And then they had to build these contig files to get the overlaps to be able to build the whole sequence because they're dealing with something that was unknown. So they took fluid out of the lung, purified it, which is a standard virology kind of procedure in the lab, and then digested the genome and then was able to sequence it using the shotgun method. All right, it builds up these contigs and then they have software that builds them up and then you can read. That's how we know what our genome is. That's how they read all the genomes. But the key is that you have to get enough of the product out of the patient, purify it, and then read, have it read millions of times. And when it's all automated, it's nothing for a machine to do this. And then build up the sequence. When they compared it, this unknown thing in the patient in Wuhan, when they compared it to what was already existing in the database, it matched two specific reference numbers, the AY number and the MG number. Okay, that is associated with bats. All right, and then associated with a SARS coronavirus. All right, so this matches what I was saying on January 25th, that it was bat SARS-like and SARS that were mixed together. And this was before the HIV homology paper that came out with the Indians, which I further confirmed that, yes, that HIV homology is there. But what's the key from this paper is the patient that came in from Wuhan had fluid that was removed from the lung, and the viral isolates were purified and digested to sequence 56 million times to build 300,000 contigs, more than 300,000 contigs, to build up a sequence. And what popped out of the blast when they compared it to the database was bat SARS and SARS, which is exactly what Dr. Shi used in her 2008 paper when she built the chimera plasmids, when she mixed it with the pseudo HIV virus. But this paper doesn't bring up the HIV homology.
Right.
This is one piece of a larger puzzle.
Mhm.
But the point here is that this paper, no doubt, says how it was isolated, how it was sequenced, and how it matches bat SARS and SARS.
Great.
So when you compare this paper with the Indian paper, compare this paper with the 2008 paper from Dr. Shi, now the picture starts to become clearer of
Mhm.
what they were doing in the laboratory.
Yep.
So when people say, oh, it doesn't exist, it's never been isolated. No, it was isolated actually on December 26th in 2019. It was published in Nature in February 3rd, 2020. And it's been sitting there tied to, the reference genome at the NIH database for a year and a half. So anyone that's saying it doesn't exist, it's not, they're not even going into the actual sequence, the
Yeah.
reference sequence.
Yeah.
So here we got, now they are calling it Wuhan human 1, the Wuhan virus. But that's the history of what's going on, that yes,
Yeah.
it was And anyone, it's been there, it's public knowledge,
Yeah.
it's easy to reference, and
Yeah.
hopefully you can put it in your database. But
Yeah.
anyone that's saying that wasn't isolated and that it was just some sort of fake sequence, and that's untrue. It was isolated, and that paper says in detail how they isolated it. They literally took a
Yeah.
tube in the lung and pulled out the fluid.
That's it. That's it. Thank you very much. I knew you could confirm it. And so, okay, everybody. Everybody knows now that paper's going in the database. So, Gail and I had talked earlier about doing a deep dive into some very special essential oils. And so maybe we could shift gears. I have a great deal, of course, and I'll show the database, but a great deal on essential oils, and I'm constantly looking at different suppliers and looking for who really has the great stuff. And I was happily surprised when Gail gave me the story about her oils, because there's a special story behind them, which makes them an oil that I like to feature in the database. And are you familiar with essential oils, Paul?
Only through Gail.
Okay. Okay.
No, I know a little bit about it. I mean, I've been more of a kind of like the supplement type guy. And it might
Okay.
be just a guy thing. And, I always viewed, essential oils as more topical. And
Yeah.
that's not the case. That's not true. But I've always, in my mind, it's always been, topical.
Yeah, it's a huge, another huge area of botanical medicine that has, of course, its own niche that needs to be understood within the context of all the other forms of extracts and supplements. And there's an important role for them. They're not used willy-nilly. You want to know what you're doing, and they're very powerful. So they are, and when we get into the database, I think you'll be surprised at some of the things that they do. But I was wondering if Gail could tell us a little bit about the story of these oils that she's come across and has graciously made available to us.
Certainly, yes. So these oils come from the Sarga Organic Farms in India. And my friend Krishna is the one between the farm and me. And so Krishna goes and checks in on the farm. He's been doing that actually for the last few weeks. And he makes sure everything is okay. And he's pretty much like putting his energy there. And all the people that are working on the farms, and they're all yogis. And then also I have a background in studying yoga as well. And I just became a yoga teacher, and I'm also a Kriyaban, which is a whole different topic. But the point is that these oils are extremely high vibration oils. And a lot of my friends that have actually tried them and have been using oils for a long time, and some of them are very sensitive. Some friends of mine are extremely sensitive. They notice right away. They're like, one friend, she's a Reiki master, just like I am. And she'll put her hands on, she go, oh, wow. And then another one too, she's like like she could just smell, the moment she smells them, she can smell the purity. And then once you start using them also, so I mean, that's the short version. The longer version of the story with the oils is Krishna was looking for a good source of oils. And so he was searching around. He was very disappointed as he went throughout India. And so when he came across Nisarga Organic Farms, he was extremely impressed and started working with them. And so that's how that all came about. And there's a story, I'm not sure if it's on your database, Dakota. It's also posted on my Instagram under @Rainbow Herbals. And so you can kind of read up on that and exactly how that evolved. So that's the backstory. And then from there, Krishna and I became acquaintances well before the whole COVID thing. And then I was like thinking, oh, should I get the oil? Should I get the oils? It's a huge investment. And so I finally, when COVID had come around, I finally decided, okay, I'm going to get the oils. I have a feeling these will be really helpful. And as soon as I got them, the quality, it's just so amazing. You probably noticed as you were talking with Dr. Paul earlier, I grabbed my peppermint, I'm getting a headache, and I'm putting it like on the back of my neck and on my temples because it actually helps a lot. So I think oils, I use them all the time. And I know you'll go into showing and talking about them, but I mean, just last night too, my throat was suddenly bothering me again. And so I took my ginger oil and I just squirted a little bit behind in the back of my throat, and that took it away right away. And so these are just like little tidbits. Use them, but I'm sure on your database you can go over even more. I've been just giving people like the gist and the main things that they can use them for, but there's so much more too. So I'm curious what you have on your database, and I think this is a beautiful melange, like getting the two together. And
well, the three of us, because also Paul has some great products that are in the database, and I'll show you where to find those too. So Paul, can I share the screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
hold on a second.
You should be able to.
Okay, so I've been trying to convince Paul to try my oil. So hopefully after the session, he'll be interested in my oil.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Winking here.
Okay, tell me when you can see it. Is it good?
Yes.
Okay, so up at the top here, I'm not going to go into how to use it. People who haven't used it before, when you log in, there are instructions here on the right, and you can learn all about how to use it. But there, I have pinned a main heading for essential oils at the top, and I just want to go through a little bit of this with you guys, because it really is interesting. So, of course, France is really the major player with essential oils, but I'm just going to read this part here. In Chinese medicine, the extracted essence represents the basic design element of a plant, or an expression of the script that directs all of its energetic processes, ranging from growth to decline. In this respect, essential oils relate first and foremost with yang qi. Now, in the database, we have also Chinese medicine. So I'm going to click here to show you yang qi, because you might not know what that is. And there are many different types of qi. So this particular type relates to pathologies that are inherited weakness and predisposition. Essential oils relate to influence disease processes where the constitution or the genetic program have been injured or taxed by a pathogen. Okay, and I'm going to go back to essential oils and continue. Now, according to the Taoist cultivators expand that idea to include the liberation of the plant's soul. So they see that the plant has a soul. There's a whole bunch on plant intelligence in here that you could get into if you have any doubts about that, because there's a lot of good science that backs this idea up. Chinese medicine contends that essential oils interact with the original qi to influence disease processes where the constitution or the genetic program have been injured or taxed by a pathogen. And that's in line with Western research that demonstrates, for example, the anti-tumor effects of essential oils. They also interact on the planes of Wei Qi, that's protective Qi, and Yin Qi. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that, but if you are a member of the database and you're interested in essential oils, be sure, I want to get this thing out of the way. Be sure to check this area out. And there are a lot of videos, we also get into the chemistry behind them, the different terpenoids, the terpenes, what are those? What are the general therapeutic benefits? And
Well,
some
what's interesting is
articles
you
and
remember,
studies.
Dakota, remember when I was talking about the lignoids and the diterpenoids paper, and it was talking and it was dealing with how they can be protease inhibitors for the
Oh, yeah.
3CL.
Yeah.
So that falls right in line with, you
Mm.
know, it can be antiviral, right? Because it's blocking the protease. And
Well,
there was based off of a paper that was looking at beta coronaviruses because
yeah.
the 3CL is conserved.
And it gets pretty specific because there are a lot of diterpenoids and terpenes. And one of the things, as we go through this, I'll show you some of the constituents. But one of the things that where we have kind of gone astray with our reductionist way of thinking, which I think is great to isolate and try to understand what a specific uh, phytochemical does, but in a plant, they work synergistically.
Well,
And there's that.
that was the reason why my protocol was to take certain supplements together at the same time and at certain times of the day, because then there's the synergistic property. See, this is like what I've learned from going through medical school. All right, I'm second year medical student, and just my own observation of supplements and dealing with people like you and Gail is that the medical school dogma is saying, well, you know, one particular vitamin isn't going to benefit you from preventing disease or helping with anti-aging. They come from the dogma that if you have a disease and you're getting malabsorption, then you should supplement.
Right.
Right. But
right.
then my professor then goes, well, he eats a carrot a day, so it helps his eyesight. And I'm like going, you're telling me that high doses of vitamin C are not a good antioxidant, but yet you eat one carrot a day that doesn't have enough beta carotene to actually help your eyesight.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like it's tough. So I think just the way to approach the problem in medical school is just coming from the wrong trajectory.
Oh, yeah.
We're not learning from some of the old quote masters,
right?
You know, the Asian
Yeah.
masters of this realm. What's also interesting is I think it's not just the chemical, or let's say the plant, but also when it was harvested. Because there's going to be different concentrations and how those chemicals start to break down or are modified throughout the age of the leaf.
Yes.
Changes the dynamic and the composition of all of those chemicals. So even people that just drink tea, you know, if you harvest the tea too early or too late, changes the caffeine concentration.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and where it's grown makes a difference, because plants have different constituents according to where they're grown. They adapt to whatever the weather conditions are where they are, and that, you know, that because they don't move around, the way they adapt to environmental stresses is altering their chemistry. And so that one of the truisms in herbal medicine is it's best, if possible, to use herbs that grow where you are, because those plants have produced a profile that is adapted to your particular environment. So let's dig into one of the essential oils. I'm going to start with lemon, and I'm using the search box down here. Oh, don't be slow. Okay. All right. So now, before we get into this, I'm going to open this up all the way, clicking that little arrow there. And I'm going to show you Gail's oil. I may have a little bit of slow internet here. Okay, this is, now I'm using these tabs that are in the database are live websites. So from right here, you could place an order. Okay.
That's so cool. Thank you so much for doing that, Dakota. I really
Well, you know, one of the things that is helpful is when websites are set up so that they'll show on a tab. Paul, your website doesn't show on a tab, so yours are going to be links like this. But let's talk about lemon oil, for example. One thing, I don't have the study in here because it's so old and I can't find it again, but there was a test done in offices, I think it was in Japan, where they diffused lemon oil and they found that it helped keep office workers more alert. So these are studies. Now, of course, with studies, they kind of give you a hint. You have to look at the study itself to see if it's an animal study, if it's a in vitro study, and that sort of thing. And of course, they're isolated. So just because it's here doesn't mean that it's going to tell you the whole story, okay? But lemon oil apparently is antibacterial, and it helps with streptococcus mutans, especially the biofilm formation. It's antioxidant, helps with anxiety and depression. And this is an interesting one, aspirin toxicity. That's something that I think is underestimated in a lot of folks who are taking aspirin. Aspirin's pretty toxic, actually, but this helps. It's toxic to the liver, but lemon oil can help. Now, that's an animal study. A little bit with cancer, for lung cancer, but here's the one I wanted to show right here. Geranium and lemon essential oils, their active compounds downregulate the ACE2 receptor in epithelial cells. And then it helps with nausea and vomiting in pregnancy. And there's some other effects here. And
Right.
then
So the ones that are listening to the show here, what's important, what we're saying here is that by taking this lemon essential oil, what you're doing is you're reducing the chances of the SARS-CoV-2 virus from attaching to the ACE2 receptor, because you are sequestering the actual receptor into the cell. You're reducing the number of receptors.
right.
The more receptors that you have presented on the cell increases your chances of infection. The less receptors that are on the cell decreases. So this is part of the reason why certain lifestyles in the data seem to be promoting SARS-CoV-2 viral attachment, such as smokers they'll upregulate ACE2. Now, what's interesting is ACE2 receptor is also the receptor for converting angiotensin. So this is helping with that whole renin-aldosterone axis for blood pressure control.
Yes, yes. And so one of the things that someone could do if they have the lemon oil in their diffusing it, you don't want to diffuse it with a lot of heat. There are some cool diffusers that
Well, it could be acting, at least short term, acting as an ACE2 antagonist.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
what happens is it's actually it's a blood pressure medication. It reduces your blood pressure because it's eliminating or slowing down that whole renin-aldosterone pathway.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. And so just diffusing it in your home, lemon oil, could be very helpful in this regard. Now, I'm going to show you also, because if you don't have lemon oil up here, you can use lemon rind as well. I just clicked on that. So when I make lemonade, I use organic lemons and put the whole lemon in my Vitamix and I get the peel. So here we see what the lemon peel does. This is just the peel. And here's the constituents. But look at all of the activity that you get in the peel. Now, of course, the essential oil, I should clarify, when we talk about essential oils, we're talking about the distilled product. Technically, when it's actually in the plant, we don't call them essential oils, we call them volatile oils. So the volatile oils are in the peel. And so when you take the peel, say in a lemonade, these are some of the effects for how it activates immunity, restrains infection, antidotes poison, and it goes on and on and on and on. Some of this language is maybe confusing because we have a language in herbalism called herbal energetics that dates way, way back. It exists in Western and Eastern medicine. So clearing heat, that basically means clearing inflammation, reducing fever, calming the liver. It clears toxemia, benefits the skin. I'm just kind of it removes blood congestion. That's another good point, and that maybe has something to do with what we were just talking about with the ACE2. Increases the qi, restores the blood, nourishes essence, and that's language from Chinese medicine. So kidney essence deficiency is a Chinese term, but here I've described it in Western terminology: slow growth in children, mental dullness, breaking nails, etc. And then there are some notes from Peter Holmes, and you see here we've also got the prep and dose separated out. So this is how you can use it and what the dosages are. The essential oil, 5 to 10 drops in a little warm water 3 times a day, etc., etc. So that's lemon. Now, you also have cedarwood oil. Now, there are a lot of oils that are called cedarwood, and so we have to differentiate. Sometimes Juniperus communis, the red cedar, is called a cedarwood oil, but technically the true cedarwood oils only come from the Cedrus genus. Those are the true cedars. So we've got Atlas cedar, cedar of Lebanon, and Himalayan cedar. So we're going to click on Himalayan because this is the oil that you have, Gail. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to learn about the Himalayan cedar, it is used medicinally in India using powdered bark and root bark and extracts of the actual plant. So that's what this is about. But let's go to the Himalayan cedar oil. And here we have
the difference from my cedarwood oil, versus other ones. So for instance, I've gotten doTERRA's. It smells totally different than this one. This one has almost like a sweet kind of smell to it. It's not as harsh as some other ones that I've smelled. So I just wanted to add that in for viewers to understand that smell difference as well.
Now, and that could have something to do with these studies. So under constituents, look at all of the different studies that have looked at the composition of this plant from different areas and different types of extraction. Now, the Hindus regard this as a divine tree. And so do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with this?
Well, I use it actually in my own homemade shampoo, and it also helps with hair to help the hair grow well or thicken the hair. I'm not sure exactly how that's working, but I noticed that my hair looks really awesome from using it in my shampoo. I also just diffuse it. I haven't experimented with any other ways of using it, so I'm curious to see what's in your database. And I'm sure if I asked Krishna, he would go on with a bunch of different things. I think has been another way that I've used it so far. No, I haven't, not that I can think of. If something comes to me, I'll let you know.
Well, here are a few things. Um, you know, because earlier I mentioned that these essential oils are considered to represent the soul of the plant. So often, and especially with this being a divine tree, we see that according to tradition in Ayurveda, it's used to give the heart courage and enhance connection to the spirit, insight, and good judgment. And here we see it has an affinity to hair and skin. It helps remove lodged toxins in both. It's a good cleanser and a stimulant to add luster back to the hair. How to use it, different, here's a hair formula. Um, here's the aromatic profile, safety concerns. This one you don't want to take internally. And then we've got studies. And here we see, for example, it is antibacterial, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, it helps with pain, antifungal is against candida and aspergillus, helps with ulcers, although if you don't want to take it internally, that's a point that's interesting because there's a lot of discussion about how when you apply an essential oil topically, it rapidly is disseminated throughout the system. So volatile means just that. It's like something that is quickly escapes into the air, and it does a similar thing inside the body when you apply it topically. Very quickly, it's disseminated throughout the body. It helps with carbohydrate uptake disorders, like amylase. It's an amylase inhibitor. So that's helpful for things like diabetes, obesity. And here, cognitive effects. So this is a study done in mice, so take it with a grain of salt. But glaucoma is an interesting, unique use. And it helps with food storage. So if you are storing grains, one
So,
of the things, go ahead.
what pops in my mind, because I just finished one of the pharmacology modules dealing with diuretics.
Uh-huh.
And some diuretics, especially if they're, so your nephron tubes, the glomerulus and then the proximal tube,
Mm-hmm.
acts with certain types of chemicals, all right, that can act as a diuretic. Well, in this region can help with controlling glaucoma.
Ah.
So what happens is the aqueous humor gets filtered more. All right,
Uh-huh.
and it goes through that canal of Schlemm,
Uh-huh.
and so some proximal distal tube diuretics will help with glaucoma. So it
Interesting.
wouldn't surprise me that this cedar essential oil
Mm-hmm.
is probably working on the proximal distal tube. Now, if it's true, then somewhere in this database probably is talking about probably some sort of diuretic.
Yeah,
There's probably there's probably something here that's suggesting that it's a diuretic. It'd be it's not like a loop diuretic where it's really flushing out a lot of water,
well,
but
if we're talking about
it's a
this oil,
mild diuretic.
if we clicked on this article and went and read it, perhaps the article itself would describe why and how it's helping with glaucoma. But I'm just curious now. I'm going to click on glaucoma just to see if I have anything in there already about the use of diuretics. Let's see.
It's a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. Those are the diuretics for glaucoma.
Okay. Just looking to see if I see anything about diuretics. These are mostly herbs that help. I'll have to look that up and see about that.
It seems as though it's acting like this carbonic anhydrase inhibitor.
Okay. Let me just see if you recognize any of these diuretic drugs. Do you recognize any of those drugs? Can you see them?
It's a little small.
Okay.
Thylazine, I do. That's that loop diuretic and the thylazines. Those are more, that will flush more water out.
Okay.
All right, now the hydra yeah, I can't even pronounce it. That one
Yeah.
I recognize.
Salaron, yeah.
Yeah.
That is it. So I may not have the one that you mentioned in here. I'll watch the video again and check that out. But this is a good example. If you're taking diuretic drugs, these are the herbs where you can expect interactions.
Wait,
Okay.
potassium sparing. Okay, so your potassium sparing ones, yeah. Licorice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Really?
if you're on that diuretic, you do not take licorice.
Oh, this is counterindicated. Okay.
Yeah, contraindicated. Yeah. So you always want to check that out. There's a whole section here. I might as well click on it, on interactions. So interactions with anti-diabetics, corticosteroids, thyroid drugs, benzodiazepines, etc. So this is one place people can go to check if they are using drugs, to check and see what we know so far. And I'm sure this isn't complete because, there's no way to test all of these things. But this is what we know. If you're on alpha blockers, these are plants that you don't want to be using. Okay, so let's go back to where we did Himalayan cedar. How about patchouli? I'm going to increase the size a little bit.
Now, for the ones for the glaucoma, are they using the eye drops in the eye, or are they just ingesting it?
I doubt that they're using eye drops in the eye, but we'd have to read the study to see. I don't recall all the details. Okay, I just enlarged the text so maybe you can see better. So this is patchouli. It's a good vein tonic. And according to Chinese medicine, it releases the exterior and expels dampness. And basically what that means is, how we, this is again energetic speak, but it improves peripheral circulation, and expelling dampness means that it helps to basically reduce edema. It treats vomiting, varicose veins, helps with water retention, releases pent up emotions. Can you see it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and here's some information about how to distill it. We don't care about that. So it's good for skin that lacks tone, for wrinkled aging skin, acne, other skin issues. antimicrobial cancer, a lot of these herbs or essential oils do seem to play a role in cancer. And a lot of them are antifungal, so candida, this helps with colitis, and lipopolysaccharide induced acute lung injury. And the way it does it is suppressing NF-kappa beta and activating the NRF2 pathways. It helps with pain, the skin, so it's big time skin. So Gail, can you tell us a little bit about your experience or thoughts on this?
Well, patchouli is one that I never liked until I got this one from India, from Krishna. And what I have found is I really like mixing it with lavender, and it helps me sleep really well. And I noticed that's not listed there, but that's how I've been using it, because I previously had an aversion to patchouli until this one. And then one of my friends was asking, she's like, can you mix like half patchouli, half lavender of your two really pure essential oils? I'm like, sure. And so she's been loving that. And I haven't tried anything with the skin yet. I've been doing some other oils on my skin, like the rose hydrosol and the sandalwood hydrosol. I use to make a toner for my skin, but I haven't tried the patchouli. I know she was talking about skin. So now that gives me some ideas to experiment with.
Okay. Well, one of the things I'm noticing when I enlarge this, I can't get to all of the tabs. But anyway, one of the tabs up here is Gail's patchouli essential oil.
Well, you got to shrink you got to shrink the text.
Well, I guess I could shrink it again. I'm versatile, right? I can do this. All right, let's just go back here. There we go. Actually, I'm not versatile. The database is versatile.
You are the database.
Or maybe we both are.
You're one with the database.
Boy, no kidding, I tell you. So there it is.
Nice.
Can you go back to the description of the?
And I wanted to add something too. When we were talking about lemon earlier, I didn't talk about how sometimes I'll take my lemon oil and actually put it down too if I'm having a sore throat, not just like ginger, for instance.
Okay.
So lemon, and I'll add it to water. And for those that like sparkling water, they can make almost their like own Italian kind of soda. My lemon oil and sweet orange oil, and almost their own like ginger ale with the ginger oil. And Krishna tells me that a lot of the people that purchase these oils purchase them because they can use them for some kind of food product or more soap products. So I thought I would add that in since I didn't mention that.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and lemon oil is pretty safe to take internally. So are we back where you wanted, Paul?
Yeah. If you could scroll down a little bit.
Tell me when to stop.
Just keep on going. All right.
Now we could click on any of these if you want to open them.
I'm curious. Let's see the cancer one. Repression of tumor formation in vivo causes G7 arrest by downloading beta can't.
G1 arrest by downregulating B-catenin transcriptional activity in colon cancer.
Right. So like what happens, Gail, is that these cells go through cycles, right? And so they have these like checks, like almost gates, and certain things have to happen to allow it to go to the next gate. And then if it does, then a whole bunch of cellular processes start to happen. Well, in cancer, it goes from G1 to S. S is more, it starts to divide and not divide, but make more DNA. Starts to replicate before it goes into its division. So if you can arrest it before it makes that transition from G1 to S, then cancer is somewhat stopped until it figures a way around it. cancer it's almost like a virus in a way. It figures a way. There's a natural selection with cancer cells, then it just pops out again. So this is interesting that it is doing the arresting.
In vivo.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go to orange, sweet orange.
Sure.
Oh, that's Osage orange. I clicked on the wrong one. Sorry. We don't want Osage. We want. There's so many orange essential oils. We want this one. Citrus sinensis is the sweet orange.
Yes.
So, the sad thing about medical school is just that they have a working knowledge of the physiology and the pharmacology, but nothing taught in medical school to bridge the gap between, let's say, a very purified substance that someone is just writing for a prescription versus what is out there, either in the supplement world or the essential or herb world or naturopathy world, that is the analog. Like, for example, we were talking about the analog to carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, right? Well, there are natural substances that can be purified, or essential oils is basically a purified, compound, right? It goes through a whole it goes through an organic process to purify, right? So but the medical school, the allopathic schools don't teach, we don't even have the time, but they don't have anything that mezzanines between what we're being taught in pharmacology and in physics versus what's in the database. It's like, but I can see these little these little bridges that are built in my head, bridging that gap. But unfortunately,
that's why all the medical students need to sign up to the database.
Yeah.
And the doctors and
there needs to be, honestly, I don't know what kind of course it would be called, but in medical school there should be something that is dealing with, we do have vitamin, like a vitamin supplement course, but it's from the perspective of malnutrition or malabsorption. There's a disease in the colon, and that causes some sort of malabsorption. Therefore, you have to give supplements.
Right.
But they never take it from the standpoint of anti-aging.
Oh yeah.
It's always a disease state. Therefore, you got to give them a B vitamin complex.
Yeah.
State, lack of, and therefore you have to give them a supplement of iron. They're iron deficient, or certain genetic disorders where they're not absorbing proper essential minerals and vitamins. But they don't take it from the standpoint, well, it can be preventative, it can be anti-aging, but not just that. There's these other compounds that actually could be pharmacological.
Oh yeah.
If used properly.
Right. I only have one thing under medical education. Obesity is barely covered in licensing exam. But there's this whole section here that might be of interest to you, Paul, on the medical system and conventional health care. So when you get into the database, check this section out. Medical system, conventional health care, gets into health insurance, health policy, healthcare workers, digital health, the whole 9 yards. So anyway, let's go back to orange. Okay. So we have the constituents here. There are plenty of them. Did you know there are 10,000 phytochemicals in a tomato?
I didn't know there was
So
10,000, but I mean, I knew there was
yeah,
a lot. But,
yeah. And so when we talk about the chemistry, we're just limiting it to main constituents that have been studied. So, and over here, if you want to break it down, if you want to break it down and look at what's in it, that can be helpful. And we'll do that in a minute, but let's just talk about the orange first of all. So again, the studies, it's good for acne, Alzheimer's, antimicrobial, great for anxiety. It's well known for helping with anxiety, by the way. Diabetes, it's an insect repellent. Physical exercise, so inhaling it before physical exercise helps with lung function. Helpful for weight loss, and here's some other effects. I'm hearing something funny. And here we go. But let me just show you how you can dig down into this a little bit. So this is a color for the constituents. Now, a lot of essential oils have linalool in them. So I'm just going to pull that up. So check this out. Linalool. Look at all the research that's gone into this one. This isn't even all of it. Cognitive effects, neurological,
can you go
pain.
back to the cardiovascular?
Well, I see that I have some strikeouts there. An editing thing I'm gonna have to go back and do. It's not supposed to be striked out.
I was wondering about that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, what happens is I'm doing all of this in a code that if there's one little thing in the wrong place, it does weird stuff.
Mm.
So
This is
that's
almost
just
like your version of Minecraft.
of what?
Minecraft. Yeah, this is like your version of it.
This is more useful probably though than Minecraft.
Do you play that?
No, but I think it would be interesting that you actually coded in Minecraft.
Don't get me started. I haven't explored that, but so let's see. It's got thymol, which is kind of a surprise to me because that's really spicy.
So I love like sometimes just inhaling the sweet orange oil.
Yeah.
I actually use it in my scorpion repellent. So
Oh,
I haven't put it on the store. I've only had one person interested in it so far. If it gets more interest, I'll put it on. But I use the sweet orange with the cinnamon, the lavender, the lemon, and the cedar wood to keep away scorpions. And it's been working wonderfully. And then when we get these thunderstorms, that's usually when the scorpions would potentially appear. So I just go around spraying the house just in case. But I've been good.
okay. Well, I'm gonna have to add that to the database because I don't think I have scorpions in here. Oh yeah, I do. So anyway, but just I don't have a scorpion repellent, so I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to.
most people don't realize that you can use the essential oils. And then you can use neem, which I sell, the neem seed oil, which I'm glad you pointed out to me that it was under the wrong section. It was supposed to be under carrier oil and it was under essential oil when I was categorizing on my website. So I've corrected that and moved it to the carrier oil because it's a seed oil. And I thought I had the sticker wrong or something, so I was all worried. So I'm glad you pointed that out. And it was just a really quick fix. But that can be used to keep away things like cockroaches too, and keep aphids off of kale. So I mean, I could go, sometimes I go on and on, like, so I'm just kind of slowing myself down here to think of things.
No, it's okay. So here's your neem oil. Neem is weird because in a way it's not really a carrier oil. And that's why it's confusing to get,
Yeah.
because they sell these teeny little bottles, 10 milliliters. That's like too much. That's not enough for a carrier oil. But so it's kind of a bridge between a carrier oil and an essential oil because it's so strong. It's like you can use it just by itself as a medicine.
I
And
use it actually to make my toothpaste. And then if I have any like bothering, like my gums are bothering me, for instance, I'll put it on my gums. I have some gums that are receded, so I'll put it there.
I really like Nigella oil for that.
Say it again, which one?
Nigella black seed oil.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's really good for that.
My take is that I'm more, and maybe it's just a certain bias, I don't know, but my take is the nano silver,
Yeah,
the
good too.
AG04,
Yeah.
AG404, but that it's neutralizing the pathogens, and it's easy. You put the gel around that area that's bothering you, have it sit there for about 60 seconds, and boom, I mean, you've neutralized it.
Yeah.
Now the toothpaste that I have that also has the nano silver technology, the silver sol in it, which is the AG404. That is the best toothpaste that I've ever used, and it doesn't have any fluoride in it. So, from my perspective, I'm thinking really the nano silver technology is to neutralize and then to heal this epithelial tissue that might get some sort of bacterial infection or some sort of inflammation.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And we have so many things to choose from. What I always recommend people do is take a look at their overall health situation and what do they have going on that they need to correct, and find something that covers as many of those bases as possible in one product.
You know why this video was blocked? Do you have any idea?
Well, I remember it was a long time ago.
Well, Pedersen was being investigated by the FDA.
Yeah,
for the things that he was saying.
Yeah.
He was saying certain things that he couldn't say.
Yeah.
And he had he was he's still settling out of court or settling in court. I mean, it's still
well,
being
look
processed.
what I did, Paul. Look what I did, because I had a feeling about that. So when I watched it, and I do this sometimes, when I suspect something might go away, I take notes. And here are all.
She's like me, isn't she, Paul? I do that too. I take notes.
Well, I mean, I wish I could show the video, but I was instructed not to because of the problem that they were having legally. My doctor suggested was having because of some of the things that Pedersen stated. So we had to take down the video.
Well, you can find a very accurate transcript right here of the whole thing. Okay.
Here's the problem, Gail, is there's certain things that are true, but just can't be said.
Many things are true.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, well, you just can't say that because, we're the power and you can't, the bottom line is that and I walk a fine line, but nano silver, the AG404, not the colloidal, but the nano silver AG404 can neutralize pathogens. And when you neutralize pathogens, you don't have a high load of pathogens. Therefore, your immune system is boosted. When you don't have an overload of pathogens, therefore you don't have inflammation, and therefore your tissues start to heal.
Yeah.
See, I walk that fine line. Patterson, he just flat out said it kills XYZ. He
Mhm.
has the research to prove it.
Yeah.
It's just that it hasn't been stamped by the FDA for him to say it. And there's the rub.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you'd be amazed on what nano silver can do. I just
Oh, yeah.
can't state it.
No, you can't, but you can come to the database
Right.
and read it.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
But the
this is
reality of the
where
situation
everything
is that
is.
there are surgeons that are using nano silver as
Mhm.
when they're closing up a wound and using it to prevent post-op infection.
Ah,
And it's internal. It's internalized. It's not like they're putting it in the body before they close
yeah,
up the wound.
excellent. Now,
And
Paul,
yeah.
everybody, this is where you can go. That's the link. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And this is where you can go to get these products.
Right,
Okay.
right,
It's right here. Boom.
right.
Easy peasy.
And there's the toothpaste.
Everything's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Patterson, he said some things that just ruffled some feathers, and it caused a whole stir, and
Yeah.
it shut down that whole nano silver,
Yeah.
It's
not
trying
the
to
first.
trying to educate the
Yeah.
public on this AG 404 silver sol type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reality of the situation, and I know this for a fact, the military uses it to fight MRSA.
Mhm.
So the military uses it. So if the military is using it, then for field operations,
Yeah.
don't you think that it should be in your home? And if you have, but like if you have an abrasion or a cut or
Mhm.
whatever, you can put that on your wound and it will heal 33% faster because it's neutralizing the pathogens in the wound.
Right.
Most of the time, wounds don't heal because there's some infection. Like people that have AIDS, right?
Mhm.
Have HIV, right? And they have full-blown AIDS, because they're in their chronic phase of it. Well, their immune system is compromised. Their immune system is basically shut down. They can't heal. So when they're cut, it doesn't heal. That is an analog to bacteria. The bacteria load in a wound is too large for the immune system to fight, and therefore it never heals. It keeps on chronically being infected and being an open wound, or it doesn't fully heal. Well, if you neutralize it, then it heals quicker. And this is the reason why the surgeons are using this stuff for closing up the wound, so you don't have the post-op infection, and it heals faster and it doesn't scar it as much. So there's a lot of benefits to this. And it's just, unfortunately, it's sad because a lot of deaths actually happen because of post-operative infection. And there's an answer to it.
Yeah.
And it's not a whole slew of antibiotics,
Right.
to have them ingest.
Yeah.
And cause, antibiotic resistant bacteria. The answer really is AG 404. But it's, we have to walk a fine line because of the way the FDA, clamps down.
I know.
And, and Fauci, he wanted, he's pushing that messenger RNA vaccine. Any therapeutic, any potential treatment to block SARS-CoV-2 has been blocked by the FDA.
Yep. Yep.
Every single one.
Yep. That's right. So that's why we have to all become educated, and there's plenty of good stuff in, as you know, Paul, in conventional medicine, but there's a whole lot that's left out, and there's a whole lot of harm that's done as a result. So back to neem oil. So you use this is one for scorpions, right?
No, that's for cockroaches. For scorpions, it would be the lavender, the cinnamon, the lemon, the sweet orange,
Okay. Oh, it's a sweet orange. Okay.
cedarwood.
Okay. And so here on neem, contraceptive activity, antibacterial, insect repellent, and then here's stuff on experimental pharmacology. This came from the World Health Organization. Anti-fertility, anti-hyperglycemic activity, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, antiviral, ulcers again, estrogenic, immune effects, and here's from World Health Organization, Volume 3, body, blah, blah, and studies. So this is a shampoo for lice.
Treat lice.
And it's good for a lot of pests and parasites. So anyway, now what have we missed so far of your oils? Let's see.
So we haven't done lavender. We haven't done, let's see, pull up the store. Tea tree, we didn't cover.
Okay.
Pine.
Okay.
Ginger, frankincense.
Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Oh, we got some slowness.
While I was thinking, do you have anything in your database about cheese?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheese?
Yeah, cheese.
Some good quality cheese, huh? You can get back and have some mozzarella.
Just bring that up real quick.
Some ricotta. Some cannolis. How about St. Joseph pastries?
You want cheeses that are aged long enough to reduce the casein. And those would be Parmesan. And in Parmesan, we get a kind of cultured probiotic effect. That's just a little teaser on cheese.
You're awesome.
Okay, now come on. My internet's being a tad slow. Okay, here we are on lavender is huge. This just goes on and on. The constituents, let's see now.
So I diffuse lavender every night to calm the kids, and then it seems to trigger them to go, okay, it's time to relax. I have to pair it with blue chamomile.
Nice.
I don't sell blue chamomile yet, but I'm thinking of ordering some. I just want to see how the store goes first, because I like it, so I use it all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Now, one of the nice things about lavender essential oil, and there's a bunch of studies about this, but for people that have dementia or anxiety problems, one of the treatments that's been very, very effective is the lavender oil hand massage. Let's see. So I'm just
stimulate so many things, your hands and your feet when you push into there.
So this is a clinical summary out of the World Health Organization. Here we go. Inhaled lavender helped with symptoms of dementia compared to dermal application. The massage affected psychological and physiological improvements in patients with acute coronary syndrome. Anti-cancer effects against various cancer cell lines. Tumor inhibition and regression, but clinical trials didn't find effectiveness of inhaled lavender for lowering anxiety during radiotherapy. You know, there's just a lot of detail here. You can just come here and look at all this, but there's plenty. And on this one, I had to separate the studies out because there was just too many. But I've also
make a lavender milk, and I use my lavender
Oh, how are you making that?
So it's in my recipe book, the Rainbow Food Rocks recipe book. So it's pretty much the same base. So you can pick base of either almond or cashew or what's the other one I do a lot? Sun butter, or you can just use the flaxseed. And then I take that base and I can make it into like hot beverage. I can make it into just a cold milk. And then I can also do ice cream. And that's another recipe in my book. So I'm using them in food. I actually put a little bit in chocolate and that's lovely. And like the cold tea, I've done a little bit of that. And I'm creating some new tea recipes too for the dessert book I'm working on. And I'm trying to think what else. And then the lavender can be used to make like salves, like so you can make an ointment because my daughter gets really dry hands and skin. So I do that. And I also have a hydrosol that I spray around. And it's one of those things that keeps away the scorpions for sure too. So I keep around the house.
One of the interesting things about lavender is it's one of the very few essential oils that you can use with cats. Of course, and very diluted, but cats cannot handle essential oils at all because their livers don't process. They don't have phase 2 conjugation. And
Want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
Okay, so I was eating this chicken Caesar sandwich today, all right? And 3 cats came up to me. I'm serious. That we have a lot of cats roaming around in the area. So, so they came up to me and I fed them a little piece of chicken, and they're so timid, but they want that piece of chicken, and they'll like bite the tip of your finger just a little bit to see if you attack them, and they'll run away. And and so the younger one is smart enough to just stay there, and I'll feed him the chicken, while the older one is more timid. So I had to like toss the chicken towards him to eat it. But that's actually happened today. So just FYI.
Well, thank you. Yes, cats are a big part of my life. Okay, so just there's so many studies on lavender, I had to give it its own little area. Cerebrovascular, dementia. Good one, you guys. Elder care and hospice. Gastrointestinal, kidneys. Menstrual issues, migraine, neuroprotective, pain. Look at all that. Psoriasis, seizures, sleep, wound healing. That's why everybody has lavender. Other effects. It's one of the very best oils. There are cautions. I'm going to click on that. Always look at the cautions. People can be allergic to it. Some studies. Here are the drug interactions. Okay. All right, let's go to pine.
Yeah, that's a popular one right now for people making tea. And so I talked with Krishna and he said use the pine needles and the pine cone to make this one. So I thought that was interesting because a lot of people talking about, I might mispronounce it, the shikimic acid or something.
Yeah, shikimic acid. That's the pine, excuse me, that's the pine needle. And I don't think that's not going to be in essential oil though.
No, but I remember on the list talking about this virus that we have going around, that pine was one of the ones that was very helpful to have.
It is.
And eucalyptus oil.
Let's see here. I'm just going to see. Antiviral. Cancer, parasites. That's all I have found on pine essential oil so far. And of course, there's stuff up here, if you want to click on one of these links, and then your oil is on one of these tabs. So here are some of the things that are in it. If you want to drill down, like there's a lot of alpha pinene, of course, carrying, camping, and oops, whoops, oops, 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 oops. Let's just click on alpha pinene, for example. So here we see that it's anticonvulsive, again, aspirin toxicity. But look over here, these are different things that it's in. So you can get it in rosemary, all of the pines. It's also in frankincense. Oh, there's your frankincense. You have serrata, right? Okay, let's go to that.
I think so.
So there are different types of frankincense. And I should mention this because
Yes, that's the one I know.
the Indian frankincense, okay, let me just say this. Almost all the studies that have been done on frankincense have been done on boswellic acid. And so you hear all these things that frankincense can do that are related to its boswellic acid content. However, there is no boswellic acid in the essential oils. So when you go to the essential oil, don't think you're getting boswellic acid. They have other things that are very nice, but not that. And one of the handicaps that we faced with when we're looking at studies to guide us is they aren't studying everything. There's a limit to how many studies they do. So if it's not on here as a study, doesn't mean there isn't some magic that is, well, it's just magic that's missing. But here, this one is good in skincare preparations with patchouli or neroli. If you combine it with lemon or pine, it helps ease breathing. And for overall wellness, you combine it with palmarosa or lavender. It instills deep tranquility. For meditation, combine it with sandalwood or orange. And then here we've got some studies. It's antifungal, antibacterial, antioxidant. I'm sure it does more than this, but these are all the studies that have been done on this particular oil. Now, one thing I recommend when you're looking at this stuff, go to the plant itself and keep going till you get to the genus, which is Boswellia is the genus, because when you get to that level, there's still more relevant material that could apply to those oils and all of the different types of frankincense. So it's nice to compare them. They do behave a little bit differently from each other. Their profile is different. The genus is a new candidate for neurodegenerative disorders. See, you wouldn't see that unless you went up to the genus level. It's good at blocking MMP9, great for cancer. So anyway, tell us more about your Indian frankincense oil.
Honestly, I put it on my wrists every single day. I have sorry, this is just popping up. I have an acquaintance and she actually takes it internally. I've never tried doing that. So I'm not sure why she does that. And I didn't really want to get too personal with her. Mm-hmm. But I do know that some people take it for various things. Mm-hmm. I'm just using it on my wrists and I find it to be really calming. And I used to use it on my daughter as well. It's very soothing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Okay. And then again, over here, we see some of the major constituents that are in this particular oil. Okay, let's go to, what have we missed?
Eucalyptus? I can't remember. Did we do peppermint?
No, do you have peppermint? I don't remember seeing it.
I do.
Okay, I probably just forgot.
Just
I
for
do
people that know, I hate peppermint.
Oh,
You know
I
the
know
reason
that.
why? Do you know the reason why?
no, I
It's just
don't.
like, all right, so it's candy canes. You know, I'm
Oh,
Jewish. I'm Jewish, and I just like
oh,
I absolutely hate candy canes.
oh.
And it's
But
just
this
like
peppermint is
I just-
so good when you mix it with chocolate. OMG. It's amazing. My kids just love
I don't know.
it. I diffuse it in the morning to wake myself up. And
So you can tell a person by what they eat. Okay, so Gail, the Italian, is eating a banana. Jew, you can
Mamma mia.
Paul, the Jewish guy, is eating cheese.
Oh, Madonna mia.
But no, for some reason, just the smell of peppermint just really
Well,
Each
that's
their
okay.
own, right?
We still love you, Paul.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, for some reason, I've never liked it as a kid.
You know, I have some things like that. I have no excuse except that I just don't like it.
But what scent is the one that really gets you, Dakota?
Well, as far as scents, you know, I think I had a hard time getting used to patchouli, and that's more because back in the hippie days, everybody wore patchouli, and I just got sick of it.
Well, that was like me, Dakota. Like I was saying, I truly until I got this one. And this one's different.
Okay,
I like it a lot. I'm echoing for some reason.
so
Paul, you're gonna love this. Peppermint chocolate. Ah! He's like, that's it, Gail. You're done. You're out of here.
so you know, you hear about using it in a hot steam for nasal decongestant, and this is one that actually does that. And here's a trial that was done on it with details. You know, it's probably getting late, and people are probably getting tired, and I spend a whole lot of time on these because they're here, and you guys can come and look
Yeah,
at
I
them.
think they get the gist of how
Yeah.
I have items.
So,
There's so much that if you just merge all of it together, they can subscribe to your database,
yeah,
you can find our products. Make
I'm gonna stop
effective.
sharing,
Mhm.
and we can help everybody get ready for bed, go to sleep with some lavender. And I don't know what time it is where you are. Well, it's about 10 here.
Yeah,
So
it's getting late. My kids need dinner.
Mm.
so what's the best way to get to your database and subscribe?
Go to herbaldatabase.org, and it's $15 a month or $100 a year. And I give a free class. I'm trying to do it once a month. It depends on if my internet's working, so I'm still struggling with that. But I'm going to be doing a free class this month, but it's advertised in the database under free classes. So that's the best way. They can go to the Facebook group Herbal Knowledge Keepers to talk to me. And so, you know, that's it. It's a big world with essential oils, a big world with medical education. And the bottom line is, to round it all out, people need to understand that they can be herbal knowledge keepers, and they can learn all this stuff in a way that's relevant to their own situation. And it's about self-empowerment, you know. And with doctors, there needs to be a team approach. Think of the doctor as part of your team. And if the doctor's not going to be a team, get another one if you can.
That's a good way of saying it. I just had a thought as you were saying that, Dakota, was for people that are homeschooling, this data is used as an educational tool
Oh, yeah,
as
yeah.
well, because more and more people are homeschooling right now. It
That's
just,
true.
I don't know, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I should be using this while I'm doing stuff with the kids too.
Yeah,
Do you
you
think the
should.
homeschooling is going to be a permanent thing, or do you think this is a transient phenomenon?
Good
Well,
question.
you know, I kind of think it's going to become permanent. Partly because there is a growing divide in the United States between people who are going along with the requirements that schools are placing on them in terms of the health care of their children, and those who are not willing to submit to the requirements the schools are making for their children to attend school. And so it's I think, you know, there'll be some who go to school, but I think schools are, boy, it's a dicey business. The future of schools. Oh,
Mhm. See, my thinking is that some homeschooled kids actually get a better education,
mm-hmm.
than, let's say, public schools.
Yeah.
But, schools, the higher tier, the upper tier schools, it's
Mhm.
very competitive. And
Right.
so, a lot of these students, they were groomed at age 4 to
Yeah.
get into these upper schools. So, and usually they have to go to private. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
private schools are like 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah. The
so sure
future.
that if it's the quality of home education probably is much better than public, but I'm not so sure that they'll be competitive in the tier 1 schools to get in.
Well,
These
that's
students,
just it.
not
It's
sure.
like that's just it. They might be qualified, but um, it depends on by the time they get there what the school is looking for. If they may kind of immediately give marks against anybody that's
Uh-huh.
been homeschooled, no matter how well educated they are.
Exactly. So let's say, student A goes to, let's say, a prestigious boarding school,
Mm-hmm.
scores, let's say, perfect score on the SAT, right? It's rare, but it does happen. Let's say student B was homeschooled, scores perfect score on the SAT, but didn't go
Yeah.
to boarding school,
Yeah.
prestigious boarding school. Who do you think is going to get in?
Right.
It's going to be the one that went to the prestigious boarding school.
Right.
So it's not equally weighted. It's not,
No.
there's not. So, for some students, it may be great to go down that road, and others, it's actually, it's harming them.
Well,
The quality of the education isn't.
there's something extra to the homeschooling though. In this state, for instance, if you homeschool, your child can start going to college much, much earlier than if the child were to go to regular school. And then in Washington, for instance, they can go to college 2 years earlier than other students.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
They still have an opportunity to stay competitive, but then also this is turning into more like a political thing to get into a school, unfortunately, rather than being for the sake of real education.
Yeah, my take is that if children are getting, they're graduating early from high school and they're getting ready for college, I'm not so sure that they're really mentally and physically ready to be in college.
No.
There's a certain level of maturity that one has to be at. Now, granted, there are individuals that are coming out of public school that aren't mentally mature to be in college. So, it goes both ways. But like these really smart children that are, let's say, 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, I've seen that
and
video
they
of
can
that
go
one
into
boy.
get into college, already, and they have a a 5.0 or a 6.0 GPA, this crazy stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know if they're ready. I mean, there's a certain level of maturity that comes with just living,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that a 12-year-old, even if they're a genius, doesn't have. They may have knowledge, but they don't have wisdom,
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's
Well,
that, so just
yeah,
just
it's been suggested many times that when you graduate from high school, you take a couple years off to travel, to get to know what it's like to be out on your own, to have some experience, get a job, whatever, before you start college, to get that time to have experience of, I put this in air quotes, real life. I don't really believe in real life, but um, at any rate, to have some experience and a little bit of maturing before they get to college,
Mm,
because it's not the same as high school.
right, right. No, I think there needs to be a level of maturity. That's why I think that the opportunities that were there coming out of high school were greater when we were younger. The
Yeah.
ones that are coming out of high school now, the opportunities aren't as great. Things are becoming automated, things that,
Yeah.
robotics and
Oh
artificial
yeah.
intelligence. So,
Yeah.
you could easily get into in automotive if you knew how to draw on a computer, right?
Right.
So it
Right.
was a skill, but it doesn't, and worked as an apprentice as you worked your way up. And then, people would go to college to get their engineering degree at the same time. And that's how you learn the trade.
Right.
That kind of thing is gone in the United
Right.
States.
Right. You don't.
So they
Yeah.
transition right into college right after high school because the opportunities aren't. The trade schools or the trades, the guilds are gone.
Yeah.
So they're kind of forced to go right into college and not have some sort of quote real life experience that you're talking about. Now, what has happened is a lot of people will get let's say an undergrad, and then they start getting their master's. They'll go into the workforce and work for 2 or 3 years before, let's say, they get their MBA or they get a master's in their discipline. So the maturing process seems to be shifted to later in adulthood, more like mid 20s,
Oh
late
yeah.
20s,
Oh
instead of,
yeah. If
let's say,
then.
18, 19, 20. It's now 26, 27, 28, where the
Definitely.
maturing process starts.
And probably still living at home.
Right.
I think one of the big issues is that in the past, people growing up could have some kind of a vision of a career path, and they kind of knew what type of uh, employment or work, or whatever career path they wanted. They could see it in the future, but you can't see that in the future now, because we don't know. Medicine, of course, that's probably going to always be around, but we don't know what is on the horizon in terms of actual employment in a lot of these fields, because, as you say, AI is taking over a lot of stuff. Robotics is taking over a lot, and it's it's a very changing, well, it's a great reset, and it's a changing world. And so people are very uncertain of what kind of future they're preparing for.
And hence the ones that have money send their kid to the private schools and they're betting that if they go to these prestigious universities that they'll have successful children,
Well, I think,
financially successful children.
yeah. Well, I think one of the big missing elements in their education that would help in whatever's over the horizon is teaching kids certain things like critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
For example, if they could learn critical thinking skills, that translates over to a lot of different areas and helps with decision making. And communication skills, and some of those soft skills can be applied all over the place.
Yeah,
So
I would augment that with ethics. I think there's
absolutely.
a lot lost ethics
Yes.
in society.
Yeah. And even philosophy,
Mhm.
to give people kind of a sense of what it means to be human, what, and help them to understand themselves. Okay, psychology, um, self-development, all of that sort of thing. That I think is really missing from education. It's not just about reading, writing, and arithmetic, although it is important. But in this world, if somebody has a strong self-confidence and the ability to be adaptable and to have good people skills and that sort of thing, I think they'll be more flexible to be able to take on whatever comes their way.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I agree. So Gail, before we wrap it up, how do they get your essential oils?
Well, thank you. So to go to www.rainbowherbals.com, I have the store there. I also have the services I'm offering. So I have the life coaching, the Reiki sessions, the health and wellness consultations, and then I have my ebook on there as well. And that is actually a lot cheaper than buying a book on Amazon. So that might encourage people to come on over, check that out. And then I have a class coming up. It's the blog section, and it's food as medicine. And that's August 14th from 3 to 5 p.m. So they can click on it and register. It's going through the East West Bookshop in Washington. So they're hosting it, and the whole thing will be on Zoom. Someone who lives in Arizona and wants to come over and hang out while I'm doing it.
Oh, thank you, Gail. Paul, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Which channel is this going to be on?
But it'll be on all the channels. See, what's
Oh,
going
well.
on? Yeah, Dakota, what's going on here is that I am heavily censored on YouTube.
Yeah, I know.
I'm, so I publish on all of my YouTube channels that are still up. One was nuked. One of the channels was nuked just
Okay.
recently. So I get a lot of strikes and a lot of videos that are deleted. So how I get around the censorship on YouTube is that I premiere the video and then I hide it.
Okay.
Then what I do is I put it on Brighteon and on Rumble. So I've been heavily populating Brighteon lately.
Okay.
So
Well,
all of the videos that have been hidden, I am trying to move over to Brighteon so people can link to their social media
right.
and have
Well,
access to some of the old stuff that was done.
Well, one of the things that happens on Facebook is when you put in a Brighteon link, they block it.
Yes, so you have to change it to Blightion instead of Brighteon. There's usually another way of doing it that Mike has suggested people do.
Oh, would you email me information on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been on Facebook in 7 months, so I don't know if it still will work, but that's how I used to do it. So yeah,
Okay.
if I find how you did it again, I'll send.
Okay, I would appreciate that because I do keep my Facebook group going and I want them to see this. So
All right, and so what will happen is it's also on Rumble, so you'll be able to link to the Rumble video when it's
hopefully.
up there.
Okay.
And then you would be able to link that Rumble video to Facebook. So
Okay.
Rumble and Brighteon, I'm not seeing the censorship like I've been seeing on YouTube.
No.
If I kept this video up because we talk about,
Right.
treatment for
Yeah.
disease and all that,
Yeah.
what will happen is I'll get a medical misinformation.
Right.
It will be struck down. And because I have so many strikes on my video, depending on the channel, it could literally bring down the whole channel.
Right. So when are you going to load this?
I'll bring it up. I'll put it up tomorrow.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
after he airs it on all of his, he'll put a copy for me, and then I'll air it on mine as well. And then I'll keep mine up. I've been keeping all the ones that he gives me up.
Is there a way for me to get a copy too? Because I'd
Yeah,
like
of
to put it
course.
on my channel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How will you do that?
Well, what I'll do is I can send you a link from my Dropbox account, and you can just
Okay.
download it from Dropbox.
Okay, would you just email that to me then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, good. So, well, thank you very much. It's been a joy as always.
Mhm.
Always interesting conversation.
Yeah, but
Thank
you know,
you so
I
much.
apologize for not being able to, keep the videos up on all the channels because
No, it's
if
not
I
your
did,
fault.
I'd lose the channel.
No, it's not. No, I get it totally. That's why I asked where it was going to be because I know that.
Mhm.
I know about Brighteon. I know about Rumble. I just don't know if I can put them on Facebook, but I'll try.
You can always link from mine onto Facebook.
Yeah. Well,
So
when I and
maybe
when
on
I put it on mine, I can do that too. So between the three of
Yeah.
us,
Well, there is a strategy that I'm doing, Dakota, and this might actually be good to integrate it into your database. As I'm populating the Brighteon channel, I am basically collecting all the videos locally because a lot of it was
Yeah.
just stored on their server.
yeah,
So what's going to happen is that there's going to be several individuals that'll have access to all the videos to
Mhm.
mirror them on different servers.
Okay.
Once they're mirrored on different servers, taking my videos off of, if they nuke me
Yeah.
on YouTube, it won't matter.
like whack-a-mole.
Right.
Because it will just be, it's already there. It's already out
Yeah.
there. It's already, it doesn't matter. And it could be easily just re-uploaded.
Mhm.
Well,
It's mirrored all over the place. So
Well,
that's
in-
the strategy, but I'm
Yeah.
moving towards that. I want
good.
that 700 to 1,000 videos on SARS-CoV-2 coverage
Yeah.
to never go down because I am
No.
afraid that they're going to whitewash the crisis just like they
Yep.
whitewashed 9/11.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
definitely that. Yeah. So, and I have downloaded some of those and saved them myself, but that's just on my private hard drive.
Mhm.
But
So what's going to
in-
happen is that it's going to probably go on to Addie's server.
Okay.
I'm sure Chris Hunter will help too,
Yeah.
and others. And what's going to happen is people are just going to have a link to the server and they can just
Okay.
start downloading whatever they want.
Well, if I get that, I'll do
It'll be
that.
like a WikiLeaks. It'll be like a
Yeah.
Dr.
I have
Cottrell
a way that I
WikiLeaks.
can do it too. If you have a link that I can put it somewhere and share where
Yeah.
people
And just so you know, in the database now with your stuff, Paul, I'm just putting in the Brighteon links. I'm not putting in any
That's-
YouTube stuff anymore. I'm putting in-
Right, because what could happen is all those links could be
Yeah.
destroyed when they take the channel down. That's my
Right.
concern about what
Yeah.
people were doing last year was they linked to everything from YouTube, and
Right.
YouTube knows this,
Yeah.
and Twitter knows this. So all you
Yeah.
have to do is just nuke the source, which
Right.
is the server from YouTube, and
Mhm.
all of that is killed.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of it. So that's why it's so important to kind of diversify in
Right.
platforms. So when one goes,
Yeah.
we still have mirrors of it in
Exactly.
I just wasn't, I was so busy in covering the crisis
I
that
know.
I didn't have I should have been more strategic and made sure that as I was going along that I populated 2 or 3 other platforms like BitChute or Brighteon.
Yeah.
And even Mike Adams was like saying, Paul, early on, he kept on saying, just load it on Brighteon. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until like June of last year when I started really populating on Brighteon.
Yeah.
So I have all this content that I created from January to June that still needs to be really uploaded.
Yeah. That's a lot.
I'm still in like February 20, 4th or something of 2020. And I already have like over 200 videos of SARS-CoV-2 up on Brighteon, just of the early coverage. It's it's really phenomenal how many videos I created in such a short amount of time.
I know.
But it takes time to download from their server, upload to Brighteon in the middle of me doing my research, and the stuff that I said about what was going on with my parents. It's a lot to handle at the moment, but the whole intent is to try to prevent the whitewashing of COVID.
Yep.
Which is going to be happening, where we have to preserve the record. I think we have to be smart and preserve the record. It's not about video. It's not about short-term views. Because if I kept the video up, I'd probably have 10,000 views on a video, but it would be almost a guarantee that I had to get it taken down. So it's not that. It's like, how do I strategically set this thing up where it's there for some time duration for people to research. I feel as though the content we're creating as we covered through this crisis is an important source for future researchers, historians, naturopaths, whatever.
Well, one of the big points that illustrates that is, and I have this in the database, is back January and February, we were all these, like you and others were already talking about proof of it being a bioweapon. That's of 2020. And so and I've got all that in a database. So now when they're saying, oh yeah, maybe it is this late in the game, and we can show that those of us who were censored were talking about this back in January of 2020.
And another common theme is this is not just a bioweapon. But what are some of the common themes of this bioweapon? HIV.
Yes.
Immune suppression, or autoimmune disorder. So there's these themes that are starting to pop up. You're gonna mark my words. There's going to be a big push this year, next year. It's not just COVID-19 vaccines. It's going to be a big push for HIV vaccines. Next year, you're going to hear a lot more about HIV.
I'll bet.
And there's going to be, and I have this working hypothesis for, I'm assuming that you've been watching some of the newer videos, but the working hypothesis now is that Barrick's research division between 2008 to 2013 was working on a coronavirus vaccine vector for influenza and HIV. At the same time that he was working with Dr. Shi to develop the fully functional, what we call SARS-CoV-2 virus. That means that they have a molecular tool that has dual purpose, can be used as a weapon, and could be used as a molecular tool in the lab to help to develop these vaccine vectors for HIV or influenza. This molecular tool has a fully functional HIV spike protein. What that means is they have turned a coronavirus into it has a direct target to CD4 positive T cells. And it is a beta coronavirus, which means that they have aerosoled the shell of HIV. So whatever they package in the coronavirus can go in and infect the T cell. And that's what the DOD really wants. They want they've been working on how do you aerosolize HIV. Well, the problem is that HIV in its main construct needs fluid transfer. It can't be aerosol.
Okay.
Right? Because the proteins that are on it won't attach to, let's say, ACE2 or the same receptors that influenza will attach to. It attaches to CD4 and, you know, some co-receptors, but that's why it has to be fluid transmission.
Yeah.
Well, when you put the fully functional HIV spike with a spike protein that will attach to ACE2, the ACE2 part of the virus vector will attach to the ACE2, get into the lung tissue, start to spread, get into the bloodstream, and now it's into the lymph node tissue. And now it's affecting the CD4 positive T cells or the CD4 positive T cells that happen to be near the infection location. So there's distant infection and local infection for this fully functional HIV spike. But the point is this: you have aerosolized AIDS.
Oh my God.
And that's what Barrick's group was doing. They were doing dual research with the DOD,
Yeah.
and they were making vaccines. So you're going to hear in the news, oh, we might be having a spike in HIV or HIV-like syndrome.
Yep. So
And that's what this whole duration was. This SARS-CoV-2 was the beginnings. It's what I call the three cocktail.
Yeah. Right.
And the 5 cocktail is dealing with influenza part of this and the HIV part of this. But the real holy grail for the DoD was having a package where it would be able to target the CD4 T cells, and they have it. Barrick has that, and this is why it's so important to spread the word and to, you know, really get people into a certain state of mind where, oh, I just remember seeing that in the news, they keep on pushing this HIV vaccine, or they keep on bringing up AIDS-like syndrome.
Right.
You know, you remember when I was doing the videos and I said,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is not just a pulmonary disease, it's a blood disease.
Oh, yeah.
This is where I was going with this.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Oh boy.
it's no, you know right away that this is a lot worse than the crisis that we're in now.
Oh yeah, this was just a warm up.
This is just the first inning
Yeah.
of a 9-inning game, and you know, HIV is on the right. The question is, when do they release it? When do they release the HIV, you know, version, the 5 cocktail? I don't know. I mean,
viral out of control, like they said in Event 201.
Maybe I don't know, but they have it. Barrick's lab has it, and it's a perfect weapon because it's 2-staged. It allows for pulmonary infection and eventually turns into a blood disease, and you know, and an immune, you know, suppression. And what happens is that if the first hit didn't kill you in the acute phase, the second hit will slowly kill you and give you cancer.
That's why they want to suppress all this information, because our natural remedies, there might be a way to manage that.
Well, the thought is that, you know, through proper diet, nutrition, and supplementation, and you know, and these oils, the essential oils and stuff, and herbs, that, you know, you can use them as blockers, you know, either receptor blockers or the idea is that if you can boost up your immune system at a certain level, that you have a higher threshold to breaking tolerance. So what will happen is that if you have a very strong immune system, you can take a little bit more of the SARS-CoV-2 load before it actually takes hold in your body and starts to replicate. Well, if you have a lower immune system, your threshold's lower and you can break tolerance, and then therefore you start to get infected. So this is the whole theory on boost your immune system, and you usually can pass infection pretty quickly. So that's kind of the medical theory that I'm working on. Is that, well, that, you know, boost your immune system so you have high thresholds for, you know, breaking tolerance, and reduce that inflammation, so your body is at kind of a healing phase instead of a chronically fighting infection phase.
Right.
So
Yeah, and use things that block the receptors.
mhm, mhm. Or promote other receptors. I mean, it depends
Mhm.
on what you're doing.
Right.
There's certain things you
Yeah.
want to downregulate, and certain
Mhm.
things you want to upregulate. But
Mhm.
the idea is that we have a runaway. When you look at this from a philosophical point of view, we have a runaway Defense Department that is
Oh yeah.
making things
Yeah.
that literally will create hell on earth.
Oh yeah.
And I'm taking it even one step further. There was something to be learned from the Cuban Missile Crisis during JFK days, right? You had this confrontation. The United States was putting nuclear weapons near Russia, near the eastern borders of,
Mhm.
in Europe. Well, Russia didn't like that, so they decided, well, we're going to put some nuclear missiles in Cuba. Okay, everyone freaks out. How dare the Russians do that? Even though we were the ones that started the whole
Mhm.
crisis. Really, if you really think about it. So, and I'm not saying I'm pro-Russian or pro-Cuban. I'm not, but I'm just saying that that's the history.
It's the history.
Yeah. So, all right, but there was clear heads that de-escalated something that could have gone nuclear, literally.
Right.
Okay, and that was just one weapon system that was falling in the lines of assured mutual destruction. All right, now we have other weapon systems that are coming online, like
Mhm.
cyber, like biologics,
Mhm.
where it is adding to the probability of
Mhm.
doing a miscalculation
Oh yeah.
in a nuclear world.
Mhm.
And so if a Cuban Missile Crisis situation did arise somewhere in the world, it's not going to be Cuba, but something like it. Will we have clear heads and not
Yeah.
make that miscalculation?
Mhm.
Because the probability of making the miscalculation has increased.
Oh yeah.
So this is my worry is that
Yeah.
if the DOD doesn't kill you from giving you an AIDS-like virus, miscalculation because of um, um, international affairs could kill everybody.
Yeah.
So either way, the DOD gets you. So that's
I
my
know.
concern. I'm really concerned about
Well, yeah, there's
inching toward a
I
Cuban missile crisis type scenario.
oh yeah, there's a lot going on there, and it doesn't seem to be quieting down very well. So yeah, that's another concern. And then of course, if that's not enough, there is the effects of the strange weather that we're having with the jet stream, with
Mm.
the sun, with that whole side where you've got in a large part of the world extreme drought and another incredible flooding, and the food systems are being wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot happening that looks like a deliberate attempt to create famine. And so, all if any everywhere you look, politically, geopolitically, just in terms of disrupting nature, there's just all kinds of issues to be aware of, and to be able to remain aware of all of that without entering into a fear state, without entering into the kinds of emotional reactivity that weaken us and weaken our immune systems and make us more vulnerable, is an interesting place to be. Where one of the ways I look at it is that the history of humanity is people in all time periods have been faced with the threat of destruction. whether it was from Attila the Hun, you know, or uh, famine in Ireland or somewhere, people have always had this at their back, that there is a threat to life of large populations. And somehow or another, many of us have been able to look that straight in the face and maintain our composure and our ability to adapt and be aware without giving in to weakness. And those are the people we need to have on board, because they're the ones that are going to see people through, as many people through as possible. And so, you know, sometimes people ask me if I'm scared, or, you know, I look at all, I can look at all of the most darkest things without getting emotionally distressed by it. And the way I do it is I look at it, if it's distressing at this level, go up a level and look at the bigger picture. And where I wind up is the place where universally everything, there's always destruction. Worlds are destroyed and reborn. There's life is constantly renewing somewhere. There's constant cycle of destruction and rebirth. So there's never truly an end. It's like a, you know, there's.
Yeah, but you know, here's the issue, Dakota. There is such a thing as the end of me, the end of you, the end
but
of Gail,
that's
you know? So, I mean,
that
it's like, yeah, you know, are we going to be feeding the tree? Yeah, eventually we'll be
we
feeding
are.
the tree.
But
But
here's
the thing is that, you know, it will be the end of us, you know, as a human being.
You know, another way I look at it is that the world is ending every second for somebody. You know, when I go, that's the end of the world for me. You know, I'll go somewhere else, I believe. But when I go, in terms of my own experience, the world has ended and all of you are gone. For every time somebody dies, every time some being dies, this world has ended for them. Now there may be another, you know, that they experience. They may go on to another realm, but the world is ending constantly for individual sentient beings. Now, of course, the tragedy is when we think of like a whole lot, like an extinction level event, and that's really kind of what we're looking at, is an extinction level event. And how do you look at an extinction level event in a way that where you can keep your composure? And that's the big question, because only people that can look at an extinction level event square in the face and maintain a sense of their own peace and ability to adapt that comes out of that peace, and love and compassion without caving in to, you know, of course, sorrow's there. All of those emotions are there. You can have the deepest grief and sorrow wrapped up in a nice, comforting blanket of compassion and still be whole. So the point is not to fall apart. And if you can do that, then you can look at everything that's happening square in the face, look at the darkest corners and the light ones. And it's what we need to do ultimately is, and this I think is our personal responsibility, is in the face of all of this, our role is to nurture life, even in our sphere of influence. Nurturing life is the most important thing that we can do, however we can do it. And even if it's just one tree left, to nurture that tree, that is our role as a human being, is simply to nurture life.
Well, there's nurturing, but it's also holding people accountable for this atrocity that they put onto us and then ending their life, you know, through legal means, because they're complicit.
But that's part of looking at everything in the face and calling a spade
Right.
and but that's part of, but it can be done compassionately, you know? It's like a
Yeah,
lot of,
we can, right, we can hang Fauci compassionately from a tree.
yeah,
I agree
you know,
with
and
that.
because we don't know the whole story. We don't know who, you know, how he was maneuvered into that. You know, we don't know the whole story behind these people.
Well, no, we don't know the
And
whole
they,
story, but I think that, you know, I think that he was a part of the weapons program.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that, and not only that, there seems to be some common themes to this weapons program, and it has,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
3 letters, HIV, written all over it.
Oh, I know.
And
Yeah. So,
he's the expert at HIV.
oh yeah. But the thing is that, um, you know, we do that through, not through, um, what happens is that when we go at it from a real strong emotional anger, you know, seeking justice type place, what doors close on us. But when we go at it with just factual, clear-headed, laying out the story in a way that people can understand, it's easier for people to hear and listen and realize, oh, it's not just that this is an angry person. This is somebody who knows something. This is somebody who's studied. This is somebody who's educated on this thing. Of course, emotion's going to come out, but I'm just saying that, um, we can, I think we can be very effective when we are able to tell the story in a way that others can hear it. Sometimes when we're
There's a
too,
time to be stoic. There's a time to be, you know, gentleman. There's a time to be a raging lunatic too. I mean, I think that
oh yeah,
the analog for the United States, the analog on how to, you know, try to have this balance is what George Washington was.
mhm,
George Washington swore a lot. He
yeah,
he got upset regularly during the war,
mhm,
but he also wrote a book about how to be a gentleman,
yeah,
you know, and
yeah,
the etiquette, you know, and you know, so there was, and then also how to be stoic and how to be a leader and how to, you know,
right.
so there was all these components wrapped up into one person, a
But
complex.
they all,
So
they
it's
come
not
through
just,
it. They come through at the right time. Timing is
Mhm,
important. At the
right, but
right time, in the right situation, when you're prepared and clear-headed.
right.
And
If, you know, if during that period of time, if it was Confucius, I don't think we would have ended up, you know, having the 13 states, you know, after, you know, so there's,
well, no, Confucius had his limitations. You know, I'm not
right.
talking about Confucius at
No,
all.
no,
I'm
no, no.
just,
I'm trying to make a, you know, my point here is that it's not, you know, sometimes if we just present ourselves as just clear-headed, factual,
mhm. But you know, Paul,
not energize, you know, not
but
energize dialogue.
Paul, you do that. I mean, you come across as clear-headed and emotionally
I think it
charged.
depends.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
but you have that combination, and I'm not dismissing that at all. I'm just saying that in for the bulk of us, we need to be very careful that we don't just give in to the fear
No, I
of
agree.
an extermination protocol.
Mhm.
And there are ways that we can manage ourselves emotionally. And at that level, it's an emotional reaction. It's like when that fear takes over and the enormity of the situation that we're facing hits us, people can freeze up and just become either, well, ineffective one way or another, just a raging maniac or catatonic. And so there's a way that we need to cultivate that allows us to be authentic, to be ourselves. Some of us are emotional, some are not. But behind all of that, we need to have the ability to look at the whole picture and also see it in a way that gives people some answers in some way of how to deal with the situation. That's what I mean by nurturing life. You know, it's like, it might be just like one of the things I put in the database recently was strategies that people have come up with and how to deal with their schools that won't allow their kids to come to school if they aren't vaccinated, or what can they do about schools that are forcing their kids to wear masks. You know, answers, like all these answers in the database. There's so many strategies in the database of practical things people can do that, so they have they're not cornered. You know, an extinction level event is big, but there's still some little nooks and crannies for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's wisdom into what you're saying. A lot of it. Well, thank you very much for coming onto the channel, and we'll publish tomorrow
Okay.
and get everybody involved, and
Okay.
hopefully we can get sharing on all these different platforms.
All right, good. So yeah, send me the link to your Dropbox, and Gail and I will both share it, and we'll get all this out.
All right.
So
great.
my dear, just good luck with everything. Love you very much. Love you, Gail.
Oh, thank you so much, Dakota. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the oils. And Dr. Paul got to learn a little bit, and I got to gain extra information too. And this will help me because I do have people ask me some more specific things about the oils that know everything. So this is great. This is a good resource.
Okay. All right, you guys. Until next time.
Yep. Until next time.